things are progressing and more countries become completely conscious that the economic partnership agreement can be a development process and a development program. And I try now to put on motion a real dynamic of explanation, campaigning in order to let them understand that it is very important to boost the regional integration. You will not have, for the poor countries, access to the trade world and the international trade without having regional integration. You cannot do that. In fact, what we did and what we did with success in Europe has to be done in Africa, for instance. If you want them to take profit, to benefit from the international globalization, they have to integrate economically and regionally. And we are trying to help them to this. You know also that we have to their disposal a lot of money to do that and to accompany them in this process.
Mr. Wilkie Rasmussen, the co-president of the ACP, yesterday said you are not sensitive to the cultural sensitivities, especially when it comes to Africa. What's your response to that?
I don't know what is cultural sensitivity. I told them in my speech this morning, you have not two conceptions of men's rights. You have not two conceptions of economic prosperity. You have not two conceptions of redistribution of the prosperity that is created. So I don't accept these excuses or these pretexts. In fact, time is now. If they want really take profit of globalization, they have not the choice. They have to create the conditions of integrated markets. If they don't succeed in integrating their markets, they will not succeed. And they will not take profit of the added value of globalization. Globalization was not invented, was not created in a very obscure place by big capitalists. In fact, globalization is the consequence of a very open communication process, and in certain sense, globalization gives a lot of advantages and of added value for the poor countries. For instance, if you take the knowledge, scientific knowledge, technology, for instance, well, through liberalization and to globalization, also the poor countries can accede to all these things and can also take profit of all these things and can implement all these things for themselves and for their profit. So I'm a strong believer in globalization. Of course, we have to accompany, we have to create solid states which can control, which can distribute the prosperity. That's the reason why we, on the European Commission side, we have decided to have a special envelope with 3 billion euros in order to boost governance, in order to consolidate the states, access to health, access to education, access to justice, access to administration, also access to the primary needs. All this through what we call the incentive tranche. So we are coherent.
So you still see a future basically for EPAs?
Of course, it will be there will be a future for EPAs. I'm so sure that we will succeed in having full EPAs, but I think now we have to explain, and we have to explain to our partners, and we have also, in a certain sense, to explain to those who, in a too simplistic way, try to make an ideological challenge with the EPAs, that they are wrong. And if they really want the poor countries becoming developed countries and having the same advantages that as we had in Europe, they have to accompany the EPAs. They have to push those countries to make the reforms, the necessary and needed reforms, in order to give them the possibility to accede to the trade world and to the international trade.